Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. We are going to ramble on just a little bit while everybody logs in. My name is Ashley here with Recruiting Daily, and you are on global talent acquisition metrics that matter versus metrics that mean nothing. That is my best presenter voice. We're here today with Nick Mailey. He is the Vice President of Talent Acquisition at Intuit. If you don't know who Intuit is, and I'm sure you do, they are the makers of TurboTax, QuickBooks, Mint, and other giant solutions that help power prosperity around the world. They're known as one of Fortune's best places to work and one of the most admired software companies in the world. Sorry, you guys. We are started here. People are still logging on. Okay, guys, Nick has been a talent executive for over 20 years. He's worked with recruiting teams all over Silicon Valley. He's got a very, very diverse background in various industries. He's known for grinding down those comfort zones and teaching recruitment teams how to test your boundaries, improve, innovate, which is why we snagged him up and we wouldn't let him go. He's here today. Hi, Nick.
Hello. Looking forward to this webinar.
Yes, we're so excited to have you here today. Okay, people are logging on, and we were going to get started. So today, it looks like our slide might be a little wonky today, but you are in listen-only mode. I'm not sure what happened there. Sometimes PowerPoint just kind of does whatever it wants. But you are in listen-only mode, which means that you can hear us, and we can't hear you. But we do want you to ask questions. This is interactive. Please, please don't be shy. Just use that questions sidebar in the panel, your GoToWebinar panel, and we will relay every question that we can to Nick. Please share. We're live. If you use the R Daily tag, share on Twitter, and people can log in while we're going. We are also recording, so you will receive a copy of the slide deck and a link to this video after the webinar. Also, we have some fantastic sponsors on with us today and some really cool offers. So check those emails. Nick, do you mind going to the next slide?
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Oh, okay. I guess the next one I already introduced. I hope everybody else is laughing with us today.
I can click ahead. There you go.
There we go. There we go. We have Recruitix here today with us. Recruitix is a fantastic company. We work really closely with them. They are a data-centric recruitment marketing agency that make it easy for the world's leading brands to attract and hire, of course, great talent. They revolutionized the recruitment advertising industry in 2012 with the introduction of the world's very first recruitment marketing analytics and optimization platform. They power industry-leading suite of talent attraction solutions, including programmatic job advertisement, targeted advertising, brand awareness, candidate sourcing, engagement through their 4 pillars, and talent attraction methodology. Lots and lots and lots to offer. Next slide, please, Nick. Thanks. And then we have Beamery. Beamery is a leading talent operating system, consolidating talent CRM, marketing, compliance, automation, and management, and connected integration layer on one unified platform. Also, wonderful people. This is great for attracting, identifying, engaging candidates at scale. They're here, and they also have a fantastic offer for you guys today. And then next, we have JobBite. They're a complete recruiting software platform with a candidate-centric recruiting model that helps companies engage candidates with meaningful experiences at the right time, in the right way, from first look to first day. They are also fantastic at writing catchphrases. That's a great one. I love that one so much. They are focused exclusively on recruiting software, and they've been doing this since 2006, so check them out. Check them out. And again, check those emails out. And we are ready to get started now that everybody's here.
All right.
Roll point and roll point. Okay, thank you so much. We'll talk about roll points at the end of it. Okay, Nick, are you ready?
Well, role point's of course part of JobLite now, right? One of their key solutions, a great partner of Intuit. So I'd like to thank all of the sponsors for doing this event and making it possible. In love where talent acquisition technology is going, and I think quite frankly it really nicely aligns and complements a lot of what I'll talk about today. What will make this most engaging, of course, will be everyone that's participating's questions, and please feel free as we go along to just engage with me and with whatever questions you might have. Today, I'm going to talk about Intuit's transformation and the journey that we've gone on, and how metrics and data were instrumental in really refocusing this organization and taking us candidly to the next level. And my hope is that you'll learn through our journey, and that will ideally inspire you to think through how you'll leverage metrics and data in your respective business areas. Now, a lot of what I'm going to be doing is making a reference to a movie and book called Moneyball. And some of you may not be familiar. You either haven't read the book or you haven't seen the movie. So I'm going to give you just a real quick rundown on what the movie was about so that it makes a bit more sense as it relates to the presentation today. We were going to do some videos, but they weren't working properly. So I'll just do a quick snippet for everyone. The book and the movie Moneyball was about a baseball team, the Oakland A's, who started looking at metrics differently in evaluating players. And what they found was inefficiency within the market. They found that large market ball clubs, were investing in stars that weren't necessarily adding value in terms of runs and ultimately wins. And so big market ball clubs were spending too much money essentially on players that weren't really getting them the outcome they ultimately wanted, which was winning championships. And so was the story.
Hey, Nick, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. It looks like we have an echo. Do you?
Okay. Does that work?
Okay. Let's see. Do you mind speaking again, just so I can?
Sure.
That's a little bit better.
All right. I'm muting.
Is this better?
Yes, that's much, much better.
All right. Great. Let's go.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Okay. So I'll refer to this as talent ball, because this was our own journey in finding, I'll say, wins from a talent perspective. And so I first start with really trying to understand the problem. And what we learned is we weren't looking at the problem. And I'll share a little bit about what we were doing. And I think most of us in talent acquisition do, which is focus on vanity metrics. Many of us, based on the technology we have, resources available to us, fall prey to leveraging in-app reports, which can be helpful in some instances, but it really does give you an incomplete view or understanding of what's happening from a talent acquisition perspective. It also can give you misleading information. In baseball, scouts would look at people's batting averages. They'd look at whether or not a person could hit for power, whether or not they could hit home runs. They determine whether or not a person was really athletic based on speed and other things. And so when you looked at evaluations, scouts would say this individual passes this eye candy test, or he looks good, and they'd make assumptions about whether or not that individual would be successful. And I think talent acquisition, we do the same thing, only we're looking at number of applicants at the top of the flow. We're looking at candidates that are being converted through a hiring process. You're looking at the numbers of people you hire. You're looking at things like cycle time. And look, some of this may have value within a larger context, but if that's the primary focus, you're not looking at the problem. And we were not looking at the problem. So talk a little bit about the cursed talent. We ran some research and we looked at the talent we wanted to hire.
Hey, Nick.
And what we learned, yes?
We have one question real quick before you move forward. I'm so sorry. It's for clarification. Do you mind explaining the difference again between community and vanity metrics?
And what metrics?
Somebody asked if you could explain the difference between vanity and community metrics. We may be ahead.
Well, I'll talk about community in a little bit. I don't know if I've gotten there, but the vanity metrics, sorry, are, I'll just say that they're the metrics that may look good, but aren't really giving you full picture. It's almost like fool's gold. It's information. Yeah, I'll just say it just is misleading. So, well, if I were to look at our applicant flow, organic applicant flow, it's very high. And the indication from that would be we have a great brand. We've been a great place to work for 17 years straight. And we're one of the most admired software companies in the world. But if you do some research, and as we have done, to look at the talent that we wanted to attract and the top tech talent we were going after, what we found is that they weren't really familiar with Intuit, and they weren't interested in working for us. And so we have a significant applicant traffic, but less than 1% of that traffic sort of meet the expectation for what we're trying to hire. Does that, I hope that helps answer the question. What we're finding is people were far more familiar with the Facebooks, the Googles, and other companies here in Silicon Valley. And that was a concern because we weren't attracting the talent we wanted. The other thing we were looking at were talent flows, and I think many of you would be familiar with this. You can pull this from LinkedIn and look at where you're winning talent and candidly where you're losing talent. And when we looked at this talent flow, we determined that not only were we not in the top consideration for the talent we wanted, we were losing more talent than we were hiring to companies like Google, Apple, and Salesforce. And the takeaway for us is we weren't really looking at the problem because we were just looking at high-level funnel metrics. And we really wanted to reverse this trend, and we wanted to hire great talent in the industry. So I just wanted to set up sort of the problem that we're trying to solve. And I think the question for everyone here is, when they're looking at the problem, and then in turn, how they're addressing it. And so I want to share with you the journey that we went on to address the opportunity that we had. So I'd say we took a step back and went back to basics, really trying to understand who our customer was, and what benefit or value we would deliver to that customer. And so we would pull together things like lean start-ins to learn from our customers and gain empathy for their pain and what was important. We came out of these sessions and declared that hiring managers were our primary customer. That's what we were delivering. And the product and service we would deliver is something that would meet their expectation, which was quality talent. And so we realized as we went along that there were some mistakes that we were making. As an organization, we may have fallen in love with technology solutions versus solving the problem. And so we had to change some of the things that we were doing, some of the things we were investing in, ensure that first we're delivering on quality talent and very specific outcomes for the candidates that we wanted to attract. So we went through this process of redesigning how we were organized, how we assessed talent, how we attracted talent, and then ultimately what we measured along the way. And that's sort of what you see as the 3 stages of that process. There were some really unique sort of things that we had done in order to gain empathy. And I'd encourage everyone to really embrace this part of the change initiative. In gaining feedback, we did interviews, of course, with leaders. We'd run different kinds of experiments for how best to hire and to attract talent. So it was an iterative process, but we did this over a year. One of the interesting things I think we did was a customer safari. We also call them wine and dine events, where we'd pull together 20 or so candidates that we didn't hire. We'd pull in recruiters and talent acquisition leaders as well, and we'd have a dinner, and we'd facilitate a discussion about their experience. And I thought it was fantastic experience for everyone involved. And I think we learned what kind of experience we were creating, why candidates either weren't coming to work for Intuit, or the experience they went through if we weren't moving forward. It was, to say the least, eye-opening, and it really reshaped the way we thought about experience for the talent we wanted to attract. And it also led to sort of a new mindset within the talent acquisition organization and with recruiters, because they were getting firsthand feedback from candidates about the experience. And again, we would do the same kind of thing with the leaders that we'd work with. And so my plug here is going through the process is as important as sort of the destination. You learn quite a bit from your customers and certainly from the candidates by going through direct engagement. So we tested and we developed a new assessment methodology where we were really challenging folks to demonstrate their craft versus traditional sort of interview process.
Hey, Nick.
Yes.
I am so sorry to interrupt you again, but it looks like we have a question on empathy. Your thoughts pertaining to empathy in this process when looking at small versus large companies.
Process. What
Yes,
do
your
you,
thoughts.
would I change the process? Is that the question?
Yes, yes. Do you deal with companies differently, whether they're small versus large, whenever you're talking about this empathy, the process that you use?
Oh, great. I don't think so. If you're a small company holding one-on-one discussions or just small group discussions, I think would be sufficient. Some of these wine and dine events, they could be 20, 30 people, but they could be 5 and 6 people. And so I don't know that the size, in terms of gaining empathy, would impact the way you approach this. right? It's just a different sort of scale. If I'm understanding the question, but
I
feel
think
free
so.
to.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it's about. Just wondering if there's a different process, or just, if you'd consider different things depending on the size of the company. We do have one more question that's come in. Would you like us to wait, or?
No, go ahead.
Okay, let's see here. Outside of Glassdoor, how are you getting candidate feedback or finding a pulse on your target talent?
Ask that again. Beyond Glassdoor?
Yes, how are you getting candidate feedback or finding a pulse on your target talent? And we can hold that one until the end if you like. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we reach out to all candidates to gain feedback. We share that feedback with our recruiters on an ongoing basis. We also have monthly ops reviews where we review that data. So we're constantly looking at things like, well, Glassdoor, but directly reaching out to all candidates to interview with us. And then we continue with these other wine and dine, customer empathy channels.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'll share a little bit more about that later in this presentation. Yeah. So look, we've tested and experimented to a new assessment methodology. The high-level takeaway here is that we got to a place where we were significantly limiting bad hires up front. And we felt like this was a better determining factor whether or not we were bringing in quality hires. So if you went through a specific process, we knew there was a much higher probability that you were going to be a strong performer. And so we then implemented this new assessment methodology throughout the company. But it was finding a solution or service for our customer that delivered quality. Getting there took some time, engaging with candidates and hiring managers and going through that process. The other thing, of course, is developing measures in that system along the way. And so we had created a vision for what we wanted to accomplish, which was sort of recruiting is done, ensuring that we were delivering talent at the point of need. And what we would develop is a system within the talent acquisition organization that would deliver for first hiring managers, providing quality talent point of need, while also ensuring we created a great experience for the candidates we engaged with. And so the problem that we solved for first was quality hire. Second, it became that speed and world-class experience third. And the reason that's as important is that you have to prioritize in sequence as you go through, at least we did, prioritize in sequence the things that you wanted to attack and then measure. And so we call these customer benefits: quality, speed, and candidate experience. And so, look, we developed an assessment methodology, we implemented that, and then we measure how we're performing on an ongoing basis. When we came out of that, we've come up with really strong metrics, and we've been maintaining these metrics for now 3 or so years. We measure hiring manager net promoter score. That's sort of a customer satisfaction score for folks who aren't familiar with it. We wanted a new hire net promoter score, so how are new hires feeling? We developed a quality of hire score. We developed, obviously speed of hire. And what we cared about here was speed of hire at scale and within certain communities. It became less important to measure it everywhere, but critical that we improved our ability to deliver at scale, or against, if you will, sort of headcount forecast, and meeting that, then, speed of hire just across the board. We also really focused on specific key talent lanes where we felt like as a business, we needed to win. And so I'm sure many of you feel like you have to win everywhere, but you almost rarely, I should say, or never have enough resources to deliver, I would just say great talent outcomes across the board. I don't know about you guys, but I've been getting an echo of this entire presentation. But here's the upshot from this. These are good metrics, but they're all lagging indicators. And I think they're better than some of the high level sort of how many applicants, how many people are responding to in-mail requests. You have to redesign sort of how you measure and when you measure net promoter scores. You have to design how you measure things like quality of hire. You have to decide in the area of speed what you're measuring and for what communities. But they're all lagging indicators. And it gives you a sense for how your business is performing, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're being predictive. And so what I'll talk about now, which I think that a lot of the partners that are sponsoring this event, I'm sure can also assist many of you with, is just that. How do you build more input metrics in your talent acquisition organization? And how can you change the game for your respective organizations and move beyond sort of tactical and transactional sort of funnel metrics? As we continue to build out and better understand our A4A assessment methodology and focus on quality, what emerged were profiles. We understood what key capabilities and skills were required, I should say, within specific talent lanes. And when I say talent lane, that would be mobile developers or full stack software developers or marketing professionals. Once you really understand the profiles for the different kinds of roles you hire for within marketing or product development, you can then start developing pools of talent in those respective areas. And so what we did for product management, marketing, in a number of different areas in product development is created communities. And out of those communities came new metrics that we would use to evaluate how we were performing as an organization, which ties to, I think, a question I got earlier in this presentation. Think about communities as being a proactive way engaging with talent on an ongoing basis. They are largely passive candidates. The candidates that said they weren't familiar with Intuit, candidates that didn't consider us as part of their consideration set and weren't actively applying. That's not exclusively who makes up our community, but a big proportion of who does. And so we started developing these communities. Another way to look at it is we really started engineering the marketplace for ourselves. So imagine you have lots of organic applicants coming through your job postings or other marketing things you put out. We started building communities based on these profiles and engaging with the talent that we wanted and developing relationships with them over time. Now there's a whole host of different ways we develop content that was relevant and engaging for the people in different talent lanes. And a lot of that is customized by each of the talents. And so what we've come up with since then is really understanding the size of different communities, the ready now, the percentage of ready now talent that we'd go after. And we started evaluating how many people were converting from these talent pools. And as it says in the top right, so what are the quality hire profiles? How are we developing these talent pools? How many people are engaged in the communities? Again, think about this as passive talent. And Ready Now's key indicator now for us in determining how many roles we can fill within a respective functional area. And what we've learned from developing these talent pools is that we're hiring better talent, the quality is higher, the net promoter and the experience of the individuals that have engaged with us over a year or a year and a half period of time is much higher. The speed of hire is cut in half, and the diversity is 2x what it would be naturally through organic channels. And this is where I say this is really changing the game for us. And it also changes the metrics that matter in what we're looking at. So at one point, it was very transactional. It was funnel metrics. Then it was really transitioning to understand customer benefit metrics and quality of hire. And then as we evolved, it's become more around how are we developing these talent markets or communities. And there you have it. What questions do you have?
Hey, Nick, we actually do have quite a few questions. So are you ready for this?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see here. Our first question is, what metrics do you use to define quality of hire? Where do you get this data from?
I want to answer that in a couple of ways. It's really important that your business leaders do this in partnership with you, and it's ultimately what they believe is important. I think we're going on even today reevaluation of what quality of hire means to us and what all could be included. There's a big focus on the confidence of the hiring process and whether or not that was key in delivering great talent. It has been an evaluation done by hiring leaders and the quality of the people that ultimately were hired into their organization. And we'll do that at different times. We'll do that at 30 days. We'll ask for an evaluation, the talent they hired at 6 months. And what we've done is a look back at all the talent that we've hired that has gone through our assessment methodology. And what we find is they outperform individuals in the company that didn't.
Okay, nice. Let's see here. Okay, we have another question. What is Nick's perspective around best practices for identifying new passive talent pools? In addition, what are the best practices to identify which candidates would be most likely open to outside opportunities? So a good passive candidate question for you.
What are the best channels? Is that what the question was?
What is your perspective around best practices for identifying new passive talent pools? And then there's a second part if you want me to hold off on that one.
It's an interesting question. I find that your employees are most ideal in engaging with passive talent. So it's not as if I have some, here's some secret areas to go and tap into. I think it's how you build sort of mutual accountability or shared accountability with business leaders to engage with folks that are passive and doing that over time. So I might just say it's a little bit about shared accountability to attract people. It's less about you as a recruiter and more about the folks in your respective teams, engineering teams or product teams, and how you can leverage them to work for you. What was the second part of the question?
Thank you so much, Nick. Yes, in addition, what are the best practices to identify which candidates will be most likely open to outside opportunities?
You know, I think for great talent, candidly, it's about building relationship over time.
Yeah.
You engage with folks and you ask them if they're interested in hearing from you on an ongoing basis. Again, with GDPR and other things, it's almost a requirement now. And so that's key. And you develop a relation, you continue to engage with them through different channels. And I think that's important, that it not just be online campaign driven, but it also be direct engagement from people in your organization. It can be lunch, can be dinners, it can be events on campus or in certain locations where you're sharing some of the innovative practices within respective groups with the candidates you're interested in. And so it becomes more of a learning session for the folks that you're interested in engaging with. I think at a high level, we've determined that what is important to people is how they're going to learn and grow, where they're going to have an impact from a work perspective. So it's not just to show a person, hey, we're doing this really innovative thing. It's showing them how you got there so they can help learn from you.
Okay. Okay. Are you ready for your next question?
I'm ready.
Okay. Once profiles are ID'd, what are methods of outreach and metrics tracked? Let me try to clarify that. Once
you internally we say you want to surround a candidate. When you think about engaging with the person, you have to get beyond general email or LinkedIn, and it has to be beyond you as a recruiter or a recruiting organization. And so think about it more holistically, pinging people to join you at events that you're going to go to. So imagine you're going to Grace Hopper, ask the talent that you're interested in if they're attending Grace Hopper and if they'll visit. If they're at a location but you're holding an event in a certain area, invite them to attend. That tends to be what we'll do. So if we're going into a unique location and there are people who are interested in, we'll invite them. And we'll do things like gallery walks. We'll go to Chicago, we'll do a gallery walk to share all the new technology we'll have, and we'll invite talent to come and check out what we're doing. We're down in Mountain View. We'll do events up in San Francisco. We'll do events here I'm in Mountain View, California. We'll do events to share what innovative things we're doing down in San Diego to see if people want to relocate down there. So you can get into like event-based recruiting, but surrounding a candidate. So, email, text, other kinds of online campaigns, webinars. I think we've hosted some webinars just within the last couple of weeks to engage with folks. And we also partner with different organizations that assist us as well.
Okay. You ready for another? They are rolling in. We're going to keep you busy today, Nick. Okay, in your vision, how do you describe a world-class experience that you mentioned earlier? So if you were to describe it.
Our initiative and what we're working towards everybody quality review and closure. And I would envision every individual that applies understands where they stand with the company. We're not there yet, but we're working on it. I think ideal is that people feel as though they can demonstrate that they're capable of doing a job or exceeding in a role, and engaging with people at, say, Intuit, but at your company to demonstrate that. So it's not just about behavioral interviewing and folks sort of telling you what they can do, but showing what they can do. And I think that that's a better balance for individuals that might be more introverted. So that I think the traditional behavioral interviewing methodologies are great if you're an extroverted individual. And so creating a system that sort of a balances approach for different people with different interaction styles creates greater sort of fairness in the assessment process. And then on our end as talent acquisition professionals, it's setting them up for success. So letting them know what to expect and coaching them through that experience. And then bringing closure, and most ideally, I think giving them sort of actionable feedback and something that they can learn from.
That's great. So it's all wrapped in with the empathy process and everything else. This all works together.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel that speed of hire determines candidate experience?
No.
Okay.
There are folks who want to move quickly, and you demonstrating your flexibility to do so can be worthwhile in some situations. Yeah, but no, speed, quite frankly, has nothing to do with quality. Or,
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's experience. I don't know that it has to have something to do with experience. And let me tell you where I'm going. An active job seeker wants to know quickly, how did they do, and they want to get feedback. But there are lots of inactive folks, and they may need to process and learn about a company, and that might take a number of interactions with your company. I hope that better explains our point of view on that.
Thank you so much, Nick. And if anyone wants any further explanation, just pop in and I'll pass it on. Okay, your next question is, what steps do you use to find talent on hard to fill positions?
What steps do you use?
Is that for a whole nother webinar?
I think so. You get the traditional tactics, right? You want to search internally, like is that talent that exists in the company? You want to assess in the market where that talent is. And then you want to look at what are the appropriate approaches by which to engage with certain talent segments. And so, we've gone through a number of different changes, and there's talent that didn't really exist within the organization. For us, it just started with research, understanding the talent landscape. Look, you can do that through LinkedIn, like through Talent Insights, is very helpful. We partner with Gartner and Talent Neuron. It's a solution that they have to sort of identify the talent landscape. When you get into very specific folks, relationships become pretty critical. And that's where I go back to the, shared accountability with key leaders in your organization.
Okay, awesome. And you've got another one here. How do you change the behaviors of recruiters if their leadership hasn't changed the metrics that they are measured on? For example, let's say a director of recruiting wants them to focus more on quality, but the CHRO has not changed the comp model. So why would they change their behavior?
Well, you need alignment.
Yeah.
Or I think that you'll find yourself in a pretty challenging position going forward. And every environment is different. So setting expectations in that case becomes super important. When we through this new assessment methodology and process and reorganize the organization, we set the expectation that this was not an efficient recruiting system. It would be effective and that you'd get high quality folks. We thought over time you could build efficiency in this method, but it took some time to get there, to be entirely candid with you. And along the way, you had to set expectations with key leaders. And there are going to be leaders that buy in to sort of the long-term strategy, and invariably they're going to balance the short and long. And if you don't have that, it really does become a challenge. The other thing I think we found is that we had to make trade-offs within our own system. So we developed more effective approach in winning high quality talent in product and technology. When we got to a certain efficiency level, we then transitioned to marketing and product management. But it was maybe 9 months before we made that transition, and it took a while for us to get there. And so everything I've shared, this is a 3-year journey. And so it's not overnight, nor is the change and the alignment with leaders overnight.
That's great. Thank you so much, Nick. And thank you for being so thorough with all of these. We've got quite a few more. So, and you have gone over this some, but I think they're asking for a little bit of elaboration. John is asking, how do you nurture, grow, and communicate with the talent communities you referenced?
I'm not going to share my special sauce.
That's okay.
No, it's a great question. What we found is that each of the talent lanes are different. Their needs are different. And here's the secret. You ask them. You ask them to join a community, and you ask them what they'd like to see or learn, how they'd like to participate, and they'll tell you. And it is that easy. The hard part is continuously creating content or gaining engagement in your partners in business is going to be pretty crucial in this process.
Yes. Thank you so much for that.
Sure.
Are you up for a couple more? It looks like we have 3 more.
No, we're good.
Okay, good. So you mentioned earlier it says, I think you mentioned this previously, but do you consider talent acquisition's customer the hiring manager or the candidate?
Hiring manager.
The hiring manager. Okay. And then can you re-explain?
99% of the folks you talk to out there are going to tell you it's a two-sided network. In an inefficient market, that's what we're in today, where there are more jobs than people, and 50% of the roles that are out there will not get filled. It's challenging not to really be thinking about the two-sided networking created for the company, or external folks that you want to attract. But at the end of the day, your primary customer is the hiring leader, and their expectation is that you're delivering great talent. And I think implicit in that is you're going to create strong experience, smooth coordination, and do it in a timely fashion.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. And then last one, can you re-explain URMs versus women from your community metrics slide? You've got some explaining to do, Nick.
I didn't hear the question.
Oh, I'm so sorry about these. URMs versus women from your community metrics slide.
Oh, underrepresented minorities. I'm sorry, underrepresented minorities and, I guess, if you will, gender. And so we really wanted to diversify the talent within the company, and we've been pretty open about what the data looks like for each respective leader within the company, and setting expectations about diversifying the talent we acquire forward. And so talking about engineering the market, if you look at sort of what comes through your organic channels, it doesn't align to probably what expectations that you have set or the leaders you're partnering with have set. And there's tremendous opportunity in Silicon Valley to diversify in a number of areas. And look, Intuit's a leader, I think, from, if you just diversity perspective, but we have much higher levels of women in the company and in technology and leadership roles. Increasing our bigger opportunity becomes underrepresented minorities. And we just have a long ways to go.
Okay. Thank you so much. And it looks like, I think that's it. Does anyone have any more questions? Do you have any questions, Nick? That was a trick question.
This was great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And like I said, everyone, oh, you've got a big thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. A couple of thanks coming in. So everyone appreciated it. This was a fantastic webinar. Thank you so much. Before we go, I just want to say thank you to RollPoint. I accidentally scrolled right past them earlier. Thank you to everyone who made this webinar possible. Thank you, Nick, so much for the wonderful, fantastic, brilliant. I could add all the adjectives in there to describe this. We had lots of great questions, and everybody was wonderfully attentive today. Please keep an eye out for that.
Just if folks have additional questions, you can look me up on LinkedIn. My email's there. You can steal it, email me, or just connect with me there if you have additional questions.
That sounds cool. Thank you so much, Nick. You guys keep your eyes open for that email. You're going to have lots of offers coming through and a recording of this webinar as well as the download for the slides. So we have 4 minutes left. If anyone wants to add a question in there, I can pop it in. Otherwise, we'll start counting down. I think that's it, Nick.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Bye, everyone.